True crime stories have an uncanny way of gripping our attention. Among the myriad of cases, the story of Fred and Rosemary West stands out as one of the most chilling and horrifying. Their gruesome acts of torture, rape, and murder shocked the world and left an indelible mark on the annals of criminal history. Fred and Rosemary West were a seemingly ordinary couple living in Gloucester, England. Yet behind their facade of normality lay a sinister partnership responsible for the brutal deaths of at least 12 young women. This essay delves deep into the lives and crimes of Fred and Rosemary West. Join us as we navigate this dark journey, uncovering the truth behind one of the most notorious criminal duos in history. Fred West was born on September 29, 1941, in Muchmarcle, Herefordshire, England. His upbringing was marred by allegations of sexual abuse within the family. His early life was marked by poor academic performance and a tendency towards violence. He was convicted of molesting a 13-year-old girl, but avoided jail time by claiming epileptic fits. Rosemary Letts was born on November 29, 1953, in Northam, Devon, England. Her childhood was troubled, marked by an abusive father, Bill Letts, who was a diagnosed schizophrenic. Rosemary met Fred West, who was 12 years her senior, and moved in with him despite her father's objections. Their marriage in 1972 marked the beginning of a deadly partnership. Fred West grew up in a rural area where his family worked as farm laborers. The environment was harsh, and discipline was often administered with a heavy hand. His father, Walter West, was a stern man, and Fred's mother, Daisy, was known for her protective nature towards Fred. Allegations of sexual abuse within the family created a toxic atmosphere that influenced Fred's development. At 17, Fred was involved in a serious motorcycle accident that left him with a metal plate in his head and a noticeable limp. This accident seemed to exacerbate his already volatile temper, leading to frequent violent outbursts. His relationships with women were equally troubled. Fred was known to be domineering and manipulative, using charm to lure women before subjecting them to abuse. His first marriage to Rena Costello was marred by infidelity and violence, setting a pattern that would continue throughout his life. Fred's criminal activities began early, including molesting a young girl and petty thefts. The death of his mother in 1968 had a profound impact on him, further destabilizing his already fragile mental state. Rosemary Letts was born into a family already fractured by mental illness and abuse. Her father, Bill Letts, was a diagnosed schizophrenic who subjected his children to harsh discipline. Rosemary's mother, Daisy, struggled to protect her children from Bill's erratic behavior but ultimately failed to provide a stable environment. Rosemary's early years were marked by sexual abuse from her father, a trauma that would have lasting effects on her psyche. As a child, Rosemary struggled with her weight and was often bullied at school. Her academic performance was poor, and she frequently lashed out at her peers. At 15, Rosemary's mother left Bill, taking Rosemary with her. However, the separation was short-lived, as Rosemary soon returned to her father. It was during this period that she met Fred West, a man 12 years her senior. Despite the significant age difference and her father's objections, Rosemary was drawn to Fred's domineering personality. She moved in with him, taking on the role of caregiver for his children while he served time in jail for theft. Rosemary's relationship with Fred marked a turning point in her life, leading to a spree of horrific crimes. The meeting of Fred and Rosemary West was a convergence of two deeply troubled individuals. Their relationship quickly evolved into a partnership marked by mutual manipulation and shared sadistic tendencies. Fred's experience with violence and criminality found a complement in Rosemary's growing proclivity for cruelty. Together they created a toxic dynamic that would enable them to commit some of the most heinous crimes in British history. Fred and Rosemary's first known victim was Anna McFall, a young woman who had been in a relationship with Fred. When she became pregnant with his child, Fred killed her and buried her dismembered body. After their marriage in 1972, they moved to 25 Cromwell Street, a location that would become infamous as the site of their gruesome acts. At Cromwell Street, the Wests created an environment conducive to their criminal activities. The house was equipped with peepholes and a red light to signal when Rosemary was entertaining clients. The couple lured young women to their home under various pretexts, including offers of employment and lodging. Once inside, the victims were subjected to prolonged torture, rape, and eventually murder. The Wests buried their victims on their property, using home improvement projects as a cover for frequent burials. This meticulous disposal method allowed them to evade detection for years. Their ability to complement each other's dark tendencies made them a particularly dangerous duo. The Wests' killing spree began in the early 1970s. Their first known victim was Linda Goff, who disappeared in April 1973. Linda was lured to 25 Cromwell Street under the pretense of a job offer. Once inside, she was tortured and murdered. Her body was dismembered and buried under the garage. This pattern became the Wests' modus operandi. Carol Ann Cooper was abducted in November 1973. She endured abuse before being killed and buried on the property. The Wests continued their reign of terror with more victims. Each woman suffered unimaginable torment. Their crimes went undetected for years. Fred's frequent run-ins with the law did not raise suspicion. Their downfall began in 1992 with a videotape. This led to an investigation uncovering their crimes. The discovery of Heather West's remains was a turning point. A search warrant led to more bodies being found. The investigation into Fred and Rosemary West's crimes began in earnest in 1992, following the disturbing discovery of videotapes showing Fred raping one of his daughters. This evidence prompted the police to delve deeper into the Wests' activities, leading to the uncovering of a series of grisly murders. The breakthrough came with the discovery of Heather West's remains in the garden of 25 Cromwell Street. Heather's disappearance had long been a point of suspicion, and her body was found buried under a patio. With the discovery of Heather's remains, the police obtained a search warrant for the entire property. The subsequent excavation revealed the remains of several other young women who had been reported missing over the years. Each body bore signs of extreme physical abuse, sexual assault, and mutilation. The police also found evidence of the West's sadistic practices, including bondage equipment and homemade torture devices. Fred West was arrested and initially cooperated with the investigation, providing information about the murders. However, he maintained that Rosemary was not involved, a claim that was quickly disproven by the mounting evidence. Rosemary was arrested soon after, and both were charged with multiple counts of murder. The trial of the Wests was a highly publicized event, drawing significant media attention due to the shocking nature of their crimes. Fred's confessions and the discovery of the bodies were pivotal in securing convictions. The trial of Rosemary West began in October 1995 and lasted for 7 weeks. It was one of the most sensational and closely followed trials in British legal history. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence of Rosemary's involvement in the murders, including forensic evidence, witness testimonies, and the horrific details of the abuse inflicted on the victims. The court heard harrowing accounts of the torture and sexual assaults committed by Fred and Rosemary, painting a chilling picture of their sadistic partnership. Rosemary maintained her innocence throughout the trial, claiming that she was unaware of Fred's activities and had no part in the murders. However, the evidence against her was damning. Witnesses testified to her active participation in the abuse, and forensic evidence linked her to the crime scenes. The prosecution argued that Rosemary was not only complicit, but also a willing and enthusiastic participant in the murders. The jury found Rosemary West guilty of 10 counts of murder. She was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a rare and severe sentence in the British legal system. The trial brought some measure of justice to the victims' families, who had endured years of uncertainty and grief. The trial and sentencing of Rosemary West marked the end of one of the most disturbing criminal cases in British history. The modus operandi of Fred and Rosemary West was characterized by a combination of charm, manipulation, and brutal violence. Their victims were often young women who were vulnerable and seeking employment or lodging. The Wests lured them to their home with promises of jobs, accommodation, or simply a place to stay. Once inside, the victims were subjected to prolonged periods of captivity, during which they endured horrific physical and sexual abuse. Fred and Rosemary's methods were methodical and sadistic. The victims were often bound and gagged, subjected to torture, and raped repeatedly. The couple's use of homemade bondage equipment and other torture devices added to the victims' suffering. The abuse would continue for days or even weeks before the victims were finally killed, usually by strangulation or suffocation. Fred's signature involved post-mortem mutilation, particularly the removal of fingers and toes. The couple's home at 25 Cromwell Street was equipped with various tools to facilitate their crimes. Peepholes allowed Fred to watch Rosemary as she entertained clients, and a red light signaled when she was with a client. The Wests buried their victims on their property, using home improvement projects as a cover for the frequent burials. This meticulous disposal method helped them evade detection for many years. Understanding the Wests' modus operandi sheds light on the calculated and methodical nature of their crimes.